Have you ever noticed that the most powerful people in the room rarely raise their voices? They don't beg for attention, they don't explain themselves, they don't chase respect. Yet somehow, everyone notices when they enter. Carl Jung believed that true power begins within, while Robert Greene teaches that influence comes from mastering perception rather than demanding it. Together, these ideas reveal a simple truth. The strongest aura is never forced, it is earned. Most people try to appear powerful by talking more, showing more, and proving more. But real influence works differently. The less you seek approval, the more valuable you become. The less you react emotionally, the harder you are to control. People are naturally drawn toward those who remain calm while everyone else loses control. Because emotional stability is rare, and rare things attract attention. Think about the people you've admired most. Was it endless confidence that impressed you? Or quiet certainty? Powerful individuals rarely feel the need to announce themselves. Their actions speak before their words ever do. Robert Greene often points out that mystery creates fascination. The moment people know everything about you, their curiosity disappears. But when you reveal yourself slowly, you become unforgettable. Silence creates questions. Questions create attention. Attention creates influence. Most people sabotage their own presence without realizing it. They respond instantly to criticism. They explain every decision. They defend every opinion. They chase acceptance from people who never intended to give it. Every unnecessary reaction gives away emotional control. And once someone knows what triggers you, they know how to manipulate you. True strength begins when your emotions stop being available to everyone. Imagine standing before a calm ocean. Its silence feels powerful. Now imagine a small puddle. Every tiny stone disturbs it. People work the same way. Weak minds react to everything. Strong minds choose what deserves a response. That choice alone changes how people perceive you. Not because you're pretending, because you've mastered yourself. Robert Greene teaches that people judge confidence long before they hear intelligence. The way you walk, the way you pause before speaking, the way you maintain eye contact, the way you refuse to rush, these silent behaviors shape first impressions more than words ever could. Your presence begins speaking before your voice does. That is why self-control is the foundation of influence. But here's where most people misunderstand power. They believe influence comes from controlling others. It doesn't. Real influence begins with controlling yourself. Can you remain calm when someone insults you? Can you stay focused when others panic? Can you refuse to seek validation when nobody applauds your effort? These moments reveal true strength. Anyone can appear confident when life is easy. Character is revealed under pressure. One of the greatest psychological advantages is emotional unpredictability. If people know exactly how you'll react, they can predict you. If they can predict you, they can influence you. But when your emotions remain disciplined, people become uncertain, and uncertainty naturally creates respect, or not fear, respect, because calmness suggests hidden strength. This doesn't mean becoming cold or cruel, it means becoming intentional. Not every battle deserves your energy, not every opinion deserves your attention, not every criticism deserves your response. Power grows every time you choose discipline over impulse. Every moment you remain composed, you strengthen your identity, and people notice even if they never say it aloud. There is another truth few people accept. Desperation is visible. Whether you're seeking approval, attention, love, or success, people instinctively sense neediness. Neediness weakens authority. Confidence comes from knowing your worth without demanding recognition. The less dependent you become on external validation, the stronger your presence naturally becomes. So before you try to influence anyone else, ask yourself a simple question. Can you influence your own thoughts? Can you control your own reactions? Can you remain disciplined when emotions demand immediate action? Because the aura people admire isn't created overnight. It's built every day through quiet decisions. The decision to stay calm, the decision to remain patient, the decision to speak only when your words add value. That is where true influence begins, not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. Most people believe power comes from saying the perfect words. Robert Greene believes something far more dangerous. Sometimes, the strongest move is saying nothing at all. Silence has a strange effect on people. It creates curiosity, it creates uncertainty. And uncertainty makes people pay attention. The moment you stop explaining yourself, people begin creating explanations of their own. That is why silence often carries more weight than endless conversation. Look around. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most respected. The person who constantly argues, defends, interrupts, or demands attention often reveals insecurity rather than confidence. Real confidence doesn't rush to be heard. It knows its value without announcing it. That's why powerful people speak with intention. Every sentence has purpose. Every pause has meaning. Every silence has influence. Robert Greene often emphasized that mystery increases perceived value. Think about anything that is difficult to understand. People naturally become fascinated. But once everything is explained, interest fades. The same happens with people. If everyone knows your next move, your fears, your plans, and your emotions, you become predictable. Predictability removes influence. Mystery creates presence, not because you're pretending, because you're disciplined enough to keep some parts of yourself private. One of the greatest mistakes people make is reacting immediately. Someone criticizes them. They instantly defend themselves. Someone insults them. They respond emotionally. Someone misunderstands them. They explain everything. But every instant reaction gives away emotional control. Silence forces people to sit with uncertainty. And uncertainty often speaks louder than words. Imagine two leaders facing criticism. The first argues with every accusation. The second simply listens, smiles, then walks away. Which one appears stronger? The second, because composure communicates confidence. People trust those who appear impossible to shake, not because they're emotionless, because they've learned emotional discipline. Silence also protects your energy. Every unnecessary argument steals focus. Every pointless debate drains clarity. Every attempt to convince people consumes emotional strength. You cannot control every opinion, nor should you try. Robert Greene reminds us that trying to win every battle often causes you to lose the war. Powerful people choose their battles carefully. Sometimes the greatest victory is refusing to fight at all. There is another reason silence is powerful. It allows observation. Most people are too busy speaking to notice what others reveal. But when you remain quiet, people begin talking. They expose their insecurities, their ambitions, their fears, their intentions. Information flows toward the person who listens. That information becomes wisdom, and wisdom always creates better decisions than impulse. Silence should never come from fear. It should come from control. There is a difference. Fear remains silent because it feels powerless. Strength remains silent because it doesn't need constant approval. People immediately sense that difference. One appears uncertain, the other appears unshakable. That quiet certainty naturally earns respect. Think about moments when you felt embarrassed. Most likely, the embarrassment became worse because you kept explaining yourself. The more you talked, the weaker your position became. Sometimes the strongest answer is no answer, not because you've lost, because you've risen above the need to defend every misunderstanding. Not everyone deserves access to your explanation. Your words are valuable. Treat them that way. If you speak constantly, people stop listening. If you only speak when necessary, every sentence gains weight. This is why truly influential people never waste words. They understand that scarcity increases value. The same rule applies to attention, presence, and conversation. So ask yourself today, do you speak to express wisdom or to seek approval? Do you react because it's necessary or because your emotions demand it? Every unnecessary explanation weakens your presence. Every disciplined silence strengthens it. Remember, power is not measured by how loudly you speak. It is measured by how completely you control yourself when everyone expects you to react. Because the most dangerous aura isn't built through endless conversation. It's built through calm observation, patient discipline, and silence that speaks louder than words. Most people spend their lives trying to control results. Robert Greene teaches something far more important. Control perception first, and outcomes often follow. Before people believe your words, they believe what they see, your posture, your patience, your confidence, your emotional stability. These silent signals create an impression long before you ever speak. The truth is simple. People rarely see reality exactly as it is. They see what they expect to see, and perception often becomes stronger than facts. Think about two people entering the same room. One walks quickly, looks nervous, avoids eye contact, constantly checks their phone. The other walks calmly, maintains eye contact, moves without rushing, speaks only when necessary. Neither person has said a single word, yet everyone has already formed an opinion. This is the invisible language of presence. Your behavior speaks before your voice does. Most people unknowingly weaken their own image. They apologize too often. They over-explain simple decisions. They constantly seek reassurance. They laugh nervously to avoid silence. Every one of these habits quietly communicates uncertainty. Robert Greene reminds us that confidence isn't announced. It is displayed through consistency. People trust certainty, even when certainty says very little. One of the greatest psychological mistakes is trying to convince everyone. The harder you chase approval, the less valuable your approval appears. Confidence doesn't argue for acceptance. It quietly assumes its own worth. This doesn't mean arrogance. Arrogance demands attention. Confidence doesn't need it. That's why the strongest individuals rarely waste energy proving themselves. Their actions become their argument. There's another truth most people overlook. Emotion spreads. Walk into a room full of panic, you'll feel tension immediately. Walk into a room where someone remains completely calm. That calmness begins influencing everyone around them. Emotional control is contagious. This is why leaders are judged less by their words and more by their reactions during difficult moments. When everyone else panics, your calmness becomes authority. Robert Greene often emphasizes that scarcity creates value. This principle doesn't apply only to money, it applies to attention, conversation, availability. If you're always available, people stop appreciating your presence. If you're constantly explaining yourself, your words lose weight. If you're always reacting, your emotions become predictable. Power grows through discipline, not excess. Observe people carefully. The individual who constantly interrupts conversations usually seeks validation. The person who dominates every discussion often fears being ignored. The one who quietly listens usually understands far more than everyone realizes. Listening gives you information. Information gives you clarity. Clarity gives you better decisions. And better decisions create influence. The quiet observer often becomes the strongest strategist. Your image is built through repetition, not one dramatic moment. Every promise you keep, every emotion you master, every unnecessary argument you avoid. People begin describing you with certain words. Reliable, composed, confident, disciplined. These labels become your reputation. And reputation often opens doors before talent ever gets the opportunity. There will always be people who misunderstand you. Accept that trying to correct every misunderstanding only weakens your presence, and people are committed to misunderstanding you. No explanation will change their mind. Your energy is too valuable to waste on those battles. Focus instead on becoming so consistent that your character speaks louder than rumors. Truth requires patience. Reputation requires discipline. Ask yourself today, what impression do I leave behind when I walk away? Do people remember calmness or emotional reactions? Do they remember confidence or insecurity? Do they trust my actions or only hear my promises? Because influence is never built in one conversation. It is built through repeated behavior that quietly shapes perception over time. Master your emotions, protect your energy, let your actions speak before your words ever need to, because the most respected people are rarely the loudest. They are the ones whose presence alone changes the atmosphere. And that kind of influence can never be faked. There is one weakness almost everyone carries, the need to be accepted, the need to be liked, the need to hear someone say, "You're enough." Robert Greene believed this desire is one of the easiest ways people lose their freedom. Because the moment someone controls your need for approval, they begin controlling your decisions. Think about it. How many times have you stayed silent because you feared rejection? How many opportunities have you missed because you worried about criticism? How often have you changed your personality just to fit into a room that never truly valued you? The answer is probably more than you realize. Power begins the day you stop asking for permission to become yourself. Most people don't live according to their values. They live according to expectations. They wear masks. They hide opinions. They suppress ambition, not because they're incapable, but because they're afraid of standing alone. Robert Greene teaches that independence is one of the rarest forms of strength. When your identity no longer depends on applause, you become difficult to manipulate. Observe confident people carefully. They don't chase every invitation. They don't constantly seek attention. They don't explain why they said no. Their boundaries are clear, and because they're clear, people respect them. Weak boundaries invite disrespect. Strong boundaries create value. Every time you protect your time, your attention, and your peace, you silently communicate self-respect. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to make everyone happy. It sounds kind, but it's impossible. No matter how honest you are, someone will misunderstand you. No matter how generous you become, someone will call you selfish. No matter how hard you work, someone will question your effort. Once you accept this truth, you stop wasting energy chasing universal approval, and that's where real confidence begins. Robert Greene often reminds us that people naturally test limits. They'll interrupt your schedule, question your decisions, challenge your patience, not always with bad intentions, sometimes simply because they're curious about what you'll tolerate. If you constantly surrender your boundaries, people learn they can control your time, your emotions, even your identity. Every time you calmly enforce a boundary, you teach people how to treat you. The strongest individuals understand something most people ignore. Respect is rarely requested. It's demonstrated, not through aggression, not through arrogance, through consistency. When your words match your actions, trust grows. When your emotions remain steady, authority grows. When your standards remain firm, respect follows. Naturally, there is another hidden trap: comparison. Social media makes it worse. Someone is richer, someone is younger, someone is more successful, someone appears happier, and little by little, you begin measuring your worth against strangers. Robert Greene would remind you that comparison destroys individuality. The person obsessed with someone else's path forgets to build their own. Your greatest competition has never been another person. It has always been yesterday's version of yourself. Ask yourself honestly, if nobody applauded your progress, would you still continue? If nobody noticed your discipline, would you still wake up early? If success arrived quietly, without recognition, would the work still matter? These questions reveal whether you're driven by purpose or approval. Purpose creates endurance, approval creates dependence, and dependence always weakens influence. Remember this: people admire those who appear complete without constant validation, not because they reject relationships, but because they don't depend on them for identity. Their happiness doesn't disappear because someone criticizes them. Their confidence doesn't collapse because someone ignores them. Their self-worth isn't determined by public opinion. That emotional independence creates an unmistakable presence. People can sense it immediately. Imagine walking into every room already knowing your value, not needing attention, not seeking compliments, not trying to impress anyone, just calm, focused, and completely comfortable with yourself. That kind of confidence cannot be bought, it cannot be faked. It can only be earned through self-mastery. So stop chasing acceptance, stop explaining your worth, stop shrinking your potential to make insecure people comfortable. Protect your peace, protect your standards, protect your identity, because the less you depend on external validation, the more powerful your presence becomes. And when people realize they can no longer control your emotions, they lose the ability to control you. Most people believe influence is something you're born with. Robert Greene believed otherwise. Influence is built, not through luck, not through talent, but through relentless discipline. Because discipline creates something that emotions never can: consistency. Anyone can appear confident for one day. Anyone can seem powerful for one conversation. But only disciplined people remain unshakable year after year. That is what people remember. Look at history. The most respected leaders were rarely the loudest. They were the most consistent. Their words matched their actions. Their principles remained steady under pressure. People trusted them because they knew exactly what they stood for. Consistency creates certainty, and certainty creates influence. When people know you cannot be easily distracted, manipulated, or intimidated, they begin treating you differently. Discipline begins long before anyone notices it. It begins when the alarm rings and nobody is watching. It begins when you're tired but continue working. It begins when comfort whispers, "Skip today." And you answer, "Not today." These invisible victories build visible confidence. Confidence isn't created by compliments. It's created by promises you keep to yourself. Every promise honored strengthens your identity. Every promise broken weakens it. Robert Greene often reminds us that reputation is one of your greatest assets. But reputation isn't built by what you claim, it's built by what people repeatedly experience. If you're reliable once, people appreciate it. If you're reliable every time, people depend on it. The same applies to character. One act of discipline changes little. Years of discipline change everything. Most people live according to their feelings. They work when inspired, rest when discouraged, quit when challenged. Their emotions decide their future. Disciplined people reverse the process. Their principles decide. Feelings become passengers. Purpose becomes the driver. That's why they continue moving while others remain stuck. There is another habit that quietly destroys influence: talking too much about future plans. The moment many people decide to change, they announce it. They tell everyone. They imagine success before earning it. Robert Greene warned against revealing too much too early. Their plans lose energy when they become conversation instead of action. Move quietly. Let your results speak first. Success explained is forgotten. Success demonstrated is respected. Silence combined with discipline creates mystery. People begin wondering, how did they change so much? How did they become so confident? How are they always so calm? Or they search for dramatic answers. But the truth is usually simple. Daily habits, daily choices, daily discipline. Greatness rarely arrives through one extraordinary moment. It grows through thousands of ordinary decisions repeated consistently. Your environment also shapes your aura. Spend enough time around negativity, your thinking becomes smaller. Spend enough time around people without ambition, your standards begin to fall. Protect your environment as carefully as you protect your mind. The strongest people don't merely avoid toxic conversations, they avoid toxic patterns, because every repeated influence eventually becomes part of your identity. Imagine yourself 1 year from today. You have two choices: continue reacting emotionally, seeking approval, explaining yourself, living for comfort, or become disciplined, calm, focused, predictable only in your integrity, unpredictable in your emotional reactions. Which version naturally commands more respect? The answer requires no explanation. People often ask how to build an unforgettable presence. The answer isn't becoming louder, it's becoming rarer. Rare people keep their word. Rare people remain calm under pressure. Rare people refuse to gossip. Rare people continue growing when nobody applauds. Scarcity increases value. Discipline makes you rare. So stop chasing shortcuts. Stop looking for tricks to influence people. Build the habits that influence yourself first. Wake up with purpose. Protect your attention. Control your emotions. Keep your promises. Speak less. Observe more. Act consistently. Because when discipline becomes your identity, respect becomes your reputation. And when respect becomes your reputation, your presence begins changing every room before you even speak. That is the kind of influence Robert Greene believed could never be borrowed, it must be earned. One disciplined decision, one silent victory, one consistent day at a time. In the end, the greatest power is not making people fear you, it is becoming someone they cannot control. Robert Greene understood a truth that most people spend their entire lives ignoring. The person who has mastered themselves has already won the hardest battle, because manipulation only works when someone can control your emotions, your fear, your anger, your insecurity, your need for approval, your desperation. Remove those weaknesses, and you become incredibly difficult to influence. Think about every time someone successfully provoked you. What really happened? They didn't control your mind. They controlled your reaction. One insult, one criticism, one moment of disrespect, and suddenly your emotions were making decisions. The moment emotions become the leader, logic becomes the follower. This is exactly why emotional discipline is one of the greatest forms of strength. The calm person always sees what the emotional person misses. Robert Greene often reminds us that patience creates advantage. Most people rush. They answer immediately. They react instantly. They reveal everything too soon, but patient people gather information. They observe patterns. They wait until emotions disappear before making important decisions. Time exposes truth. Emotion often hides it. The strongest move is rarely the fastest, it is the wisest. One of the greatest habits you can develop is learning to pause. Before speaking, pause. Before reacting, pause. Before making a major decision, pause. That small moment separates disciplined people from impulsive people. A single pause can save a friendship, protect a career, strengthen a reputation, or completely change the direction of your life. Power often exists in those few silent seconds. There will always be people who misunderstand your calmness. Some will mistake silence for weakness. Some will confuse patience with fear. Some will believe kindness means they can take advantage of you. Let them believe it. Your responsibility isn't correcting every opinion. Your responsibility is protecting your character. Eventually, consistency reveals the truth that explanations never could. Remember this, the people who truly command respect rarely demand it. They simply live in a way that naturally earns it. They don't gossip, they don't seek revenge, they don't waste energy proving themselves, they continue improving while everyone else argues. That quiet discipline creates an aura that cannot be copied, because it is built from character, not performance. Ask yourself honestly, who controls your emotions today? A stranger on the internet? A difficult coworker? Someone who rejected you? Someone who criticized you years ago? If another person's words can instantly change your peace, then they still hold power over your life. Freedom begins the day you stop handing your emotional control to other people. Your peace should never depend on someone else's behavior. The strongest people understand one final truth. Life is not about defeating everyone around you. It is about defeating the weaknesses within you. Every day becomes another opportunity to become calmer, wiser, more disciplined, more patient, more focused. Not for applause, not for attention, but because that is the person you choose to become. Real power is invisible before it becomes visible. It begins in private habits, private discipline, private victories, long before the world notices the results. Imagine meeting yourself 5 years from now. Would that future version thank you? For every moment you stayed silent instead of reacting, for every boundary you protected, for every distraction you ignored, for every emotional impulse you refused to obey, or would they wish you had stopped seeking approval sooner? That future is being created today. Every choice shapes it. Every habit strengthens it. Every reaction either builds your freedom or gives it away. So from this day forward, protect your peace, guard your attention, master your emotions, speak with purpose, move with patience, grow in silence, and let your results introduce you. Because true influence doesn't come from forcing people to follow you. It comes from becoming someone whose discipline, confidence, and character naturally inspire respect. That is the kind of presence Robert Greene describes. Not loud, not desperate, not emotional, but calm, intentional, unshakable. Remember, the strongest aura is never created by controlling other people. It is created by mastering yourself so completely that no one else can control you. Become that person, and you'll never need to chase power again, because real power will already be within you.